Hello beautiful people and welcome to my channel. This week we are back with another 5 poses that we are going to break down and make them a little bit more accessible for beginners. This week's poses focuses mainly on your hips and your balance. So first pose, we're going to do low lunge. A beginner friendly version of this is just to go onto one knee, making sure that your knee is in line with your ankle in front of the bent leg, and that your back leg, the foot is in a straight line and not facing either inward or outward, just in line with the knee as well. Make sure that your pelvis is tucked under and not in a posterior position. If this is a little taxing on your knees, feel free to use a pillow or a folded blanket for support. Also make sure that you are engaging your core, spine is nice and long, shoulders is relaxed, and your gaze is facing forward. You also don't want to have your hips flared out, so making sure that your hip faces forward and everything is in line with the front knee. For hand placement, you have the option to keep your hands on your hips or try and extend the arms overhead. When doing so, make sure that the shoulders isn't hunched up towards the ears. Relax the shoulders, pushing your shoulder blades down your back and just extending arms in a nice comfortable position. If this is too taxing on your shoulders, feel free to bring the palms together at heart center, or you can go ahead and extend your arms out towards the side to aid in your balance. Once you feel comfortable and good here, you can go ahead and try and see if you're able to get a deeper lunge by just shifting your front foot forward, just inching it forward little by little and pushing your weight into the bent knee, making sure that your knee doesn't go over the toes because we're not trying to stretch the ankle or calves in the front foot. We want to keep the stretch towards the inside of the opposite leg. And with enough practice, the hip flexor will become a little bit more flexible and open, and you'll be able to extend your back leg all the way without the upper body leaning too far forward. You want to try and keep the weight centered. Now you can add in some variations here by doing a prayer hand twist, so keeping the palms together and twisting out towards the side of the bent leg. The other option is to place both palms on the inside of your foot and opening up either towards the inside of the bent leg or towards the outside. You can also do some pulses here by rocking back and forth. This will open up and warm up that hip area. By extending the front leg, you are also working the hamstrings of the front leg. Next up, we have high lunge. Now you can transition directly from low lunge into high lunge by just tucking the toes underneath, lifting that back leg off the ground, slowly raising yourself up by using your knee for support, making sure that your weight is stable and in the middle between both legs, not leaning too far forward and not leaning too far backwards. Your feet needs to be parallel, so both feet needs to face towards the front. Make sure that the back heel is in line with the toes and not flaring out towards the side. When you're ready and you find your balance, you can extend your hands overhead or keep the hands on your hips or even at heart center. This pose requires a little bit more concentration for balance, so make sure that you focus on one spot and that your core is engaged. Don't worry if you're not able to get your back leg straight. You can have a slight bend in the knee if that's a little bit more comfortable. You can add a little bit of a twist in here as well by opening up towards the side of the bent leg, extending your arms out on either side. Now we're going to move into our next pose from high lunge into warrior one. This will just be a slight change, so the only thing that you have to do is pivot your back foot. So when looking at your feet, one will be vertical and the other one will be horizontal. Now, whereas in high lunge, your hips was facing forward, once you transition into warrior one, your hips might open slightly, and that's perfectly normal, right? Try and keep your torso facing towards the front as you raise the hands overhead. And from here, we will immediately move into warrior two by opening up a little further and extending the arms out towards either side. If you're struggling with your balance a little bit, you have the option to use the wall for support. So moving from high lunge into warrior 1 and then into warrior 2. You might need to let go of the wall for a little bit for warrior 2, but you can also do this entire sequence using a chair as well. Moving from high lunge into warrior 1 and then opening up into warrior 2. Moving into our last pose, we will transition from warrior 2 into warrior 3. First, we have to get back into high lunge, so pivoting the foot again, shifting our hips forward, pushing our weight into our bent leg, and slightly push off, extending the leg out towards the back of the room until you are balanced on your front leg. You are essentially making a T shape with your body, making sure your core is engaged and that your hips are stacked. Hand placement can either be towards the back of the room as well, or palms at heart center. You can even extend it out in front of you. Now, this pose can be a little challenging if you're struggling with balance. A variation for you to try is to stay in high lunge, shift all of your weight forward onto the bent leg, having the very tippy toes of your extended leg touch the floor, and then eventually try and push off and come up onto the front leg. Option 2, transition from forward fold as well, so simply lifting one foot off the ground, extending the back leg as far as you are able to, either using a wall or chair for support until you are able to do it with no hands. A great tip here is to try and focus all of your energy on one spot, keeping your core engaged as well as your glutes and quads. To come out of this pose, simply soften the front knee and slowly lower down into high lunge or even low lunge. I hope this video has been helpful to you. Let me know down below if you've tried it or if you have any questions. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope that you have a beautiful day further.